This topic may upset our friend Joel Raptor, but we have to talk about it, okay? We have to talk about it because there's a small development that I'm going to stretch into this whole video as we do a recap, okay? Full transparency. Not AC Shadows. No. Of course, Horizon. Horizon, as we all know, is Herman Hulst's baby. He loves it dearly. He's from Guerrilla originally, and then he got promoted up the chain at Sony, so he's got it near and dear to his heart. But what's interesting about Horizon is that they have tried desperately to turn it into a thing. They're trying to make fetch happen, and it's just not happening yet. Horizon sells very well, certainly when you put it on like the PlayStation Plus, you know, whatever free download or discounted download and purchase thing for PlayStation Plus subscribers. It does very well long term because it's a graphical powerhouse, you know, without a doubt. If you buy a PS5, for example, and you want to see what that console's capable of when you push it, this is the game. You know, it's a gorgeous series. The art direction's solid, the implementation, the technology, all of it is really well done. My perspective on Horizon, some people misunderstand and think that I hate it or think it's really bad, and we do ham it up and poke fun at it because it's funny watching like fanboys freak out. But I think Horizon is fine. Even at times it's pretty good. I just don't think they're masterpieces, and I don't think they've earned the cred that PlayStation acts as though they've earned. Like, I think they are the quintessential like 7 to 8 out of 10 games. Like they're pretty good or even good, but they're not like these masterpieces where they're putting Aloy next to like Kratos in their lineup. I'm like, no. Baby dear, you're nowhere near Kratos, okay? You got to earn that spot. And Aloy has the personality of a wet paper bag, in my opinion. Even in the second game, spoiler warning, they're so worried about her appearing weak because they cannot justify Aloy having any weakness at all. She's like the ultimate Mary Sue in these games. That they literally create, like, again, spoilers, a clone of her, and that clone is insecure about stuff. And then Aloy comes in and is like, you need to get it together. We have to save the world. You can do this. Like, they literally, instead of just having Aloy be insecure about anything, they're like, no, we're going to create a clone and have the clone do it. And they literally call her Beta. Yeah, literally. Like, you can't even make up how stupid it is, okay? It's insane. I don't know how anybody's like, it's really well written. I honestly have no idea how you could think that, but more power to you. Anyway, I have many frustrations with the Horizon stuff, primarily because of that. Like, they're so focused on trying to make Aloy a thing and Aloy this like hardcore mascot of PlayStation that it just feels like they're unwilling to actually write a compelling, interesting character from the ground up. And instead they're just trying to skip to the part where everybody cherishes everything that she does. Sorry, got lightheaded. So they've tried spin-off projects. They've tried the Call of the Mountain, I believe is what it was called, the VR game. And then they tried the Lego Adventures game, which was like 6.5, 7 hours long and was not reviewed very well because it was very just haphazardly thrown together. And it just, even Horizon fans were like, this is pretty minimal, you know? Pretty minimal. But they're doing other stuff. They were working on a big TV show and movie projects, and some of that fell through. Some of the writers bailed and directors bailed, and now they're rebooting some of that stuff and some of those talks, trying to get the Horizon movie moving. We'll see if that actually ends up happening. It obviously hasn't yet. Oh yeah, the other thing, I just have to mention this because it's like, I saw somebody on X post a simple phrase about Horizon, and I thought it was brilliant. And I'm sorry, it was like some person with like 15 numbers next to their name. So who knows if it was even a real person. But what they said was, Horizon is a game that pretends to be an RPG. And I thought that was brilliant. I was like, yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a game that like gives you these dialogue choices. Remember, like the fist, the heart, the brain, whatever logos, and you choose the different dialogue options, and it literally does nothing. Like, it has no effect on anything at all. And they're like pretending that it's really deep and meaningful, and you got to think about your and it doesn't matter. Like, none of it matters. It's just a game that's trying to appear like something it's not. And it's trying really hard to make fetch happen, and it's just not happening. So anyway, that's one thing I wanted to put out there. But as part of these expansionary efforts, they're trying to turn it into this massive, big thing, this global franchise, multi-billion-dollar franchise. As they're doing that, they've greenlit these spin-off projects, but then they've also greenlit projects that are aimed to fall in line with the Jim Ryan direction for the PS5 era, which, you know, the whole thing has been live service. Because when you have a big IP, in theory, you should be able to make a big live service game that prints tons of money, right? That's what they're hoping for. So they've greenlit a couple of different things. They've greenlit like a big Horizon MMO that's being made at like, is it NC Soft or something? It's some partner company, and they're working on that. We thought it was canceled, but then they confirmed it wasn't canceled. A different game was canceled. So that's still out there somewhere. We've not really seen anything about that. But Guerrilla Games, the actual studio behind Horizon, is also working on a big online Horizon game. They're not working on Horizon 3, at least not yet, in anywhere close to full capacity. They're working on this online game. They have some expectations for it, okay? Just to be clear, and put this succinctly. So Horizon Zero Dawn's multiplayer spinoff has big dreams as Guerrilla confirms it's hoping to attract more than 1 million users. As whispers about the multiplayer Horizon game continue, it appears that developer Guerrilla Games could be expecting to deal with a lot of concurrent players. As a new job listing suggests, it's looking to hire somebody with experience handling at least 1 million global users. Now there's no job posting. It's since been taken down, but taken from that job posting, the page specifically mentions, quote, the online infrastructure team, which owns our online multiplayer game infrastructure. Its goal is to develop systems that enable game developers to reliably build and operate games on a global scale. And it adds, we are deeply invested in the implementation of industry best practices in the areas of platform engineering and infrastructure management. So they're looking to hire somebody that's willing to juggle or able to build a system that can juggle over 1 million players. I love the ambition. I love it. I love it. It's giving confidence. It's giving passion. It's giving, what's the term? Pipe dreams, when previous projects have not amounted to much. So we'll see. Hubris. Yeah, Ali, I think you're right. Hubris. Listen, Concord collapsed. In many ways, it's delusion. Concord collapsed for a lot of reasons, okay? Chief among them, in my opinion, because it wasn't a game anybody wanted, okay? Nobody was asking for a kind of crappier version of Overwatch. Nobody wanted it. And as a result, they peaked on Steam, at least, with a all-time high of 697 players. And what makes this even funnier, and I've showed this before, is I'll see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, so some people, this guy Kevin actually runs like the community management stuff at Sony Bend Studio. The guys that did Days Gone and all of that. They reportedly were like, the whole team was playing Concord on its day of launch. So everybody at like Insomniac, and then the team at Sony Bend were like trying to support them by playing the game. They might not have been playing on PC, but it's really funny to think that this number is potentially inflated with members of Sony's own employees because it's not impossible, which is just funny. That their peak player number is probably actually even lower than that because some of these people are actually like employees that were being paid to play it, which is funny. Anyway, it died for many, many reasons, but chief among them, it was a game nobody wanted. Horizon Online, I think, is a game that potentially falls into a similar category. Now, the fact that Monster Hunter Wilds is having so many technical issues actually presents a good opportunity for Horizon if it's ready anytime soon. Because allegedly this game is expected to be basically Monster Hunter, but with parties of like 4, 5, 6 in a Horizon environment with Horizon robot monsters and stuff, which is not, you know, the worst idea. What is, I think, the worst idea is that there's been leaks of the art and leaks of the character designs and things like that, which, I mean, these are very old, so it could totally flop, but I think nobody's asking for a Fortnite skinned Horizon Monster Hunter spinoff. I don't think anybody, but is it important? I don't think anybody's asking for that. Okay. And that leads us to a situation where they're launching this game. This game is extremely expensive. It's been years and years. I mean, this is approaching the point of like hundreds of millions of dollars. They have some actual like screen caps and screen grabs from a leak in 2020. And I'm gonna just be real. If any of these, I mean, it's very old, but I mean, after people threw fits over the problems of Concord's designs, again, this could totally change. These are 5-year-old leaks at this point. But if this is where they were starting, yeah, it's a bold strategy. We'll see if this works out for them, Con. Yeah. We'll see. I'm anxious about it for them on their behalf. And I'm saying this as somebody that like will get a lot of enjoyment out of talking about this game if it looks the way that I'm starting to think it might be. But they cannot afford for this game to be a disaster. This game is one of their biggest, most ambitious and expensive projects that they've got on the books. And they've just made an interesting hire. So as you can see, Arctics posted this on X. The Horizon Online project just gained another game design legend. Chris Proctor, beloved by the Destiny 2 community for unique weapon designs and mechanics, has joined Guerrilla as a design director. Welcome, Chris. The Horizon community is happy to have you. So he previously worked at Bungie. You can see listed for 5 years and 3 months. Senior design lead on Destiny 2 Sandbox Craft lead. Prior to that, senior design lead, Destiny 2 weapons feature lead, and then was hired and moved to the Netherlands to work on this. Just hired, like today. Let's see. So this guy says, yeah, I bet he's taking on a lot of what Dennis Zopfi did, who previously was like a gameplay director, previously worked there, now is working over at CDPR on The Witcher 4. Dennis was lead combat designer for Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. He was probably working on the online project until December when he went to CDPR to work on The Witcher 4. Lost one legend, gained another. So, and then Dialga, this game is getting canceled soon. Highly unlikely. They clearly stated in November post for an intern that the game would be preparing to launch in 2025, and it's been progressing for 7+ years. Plus, as stated in my original post, they just hired a high-profile design director, very unlikely to be canceled. I do agree it's very unlikely it's going to be canceled. I think it almost certainly launches. But the games industry is somewhat unfair, okay? It's a little unfair. And it's unfair in the sense that some studios can get away with some stuff and others can't. Some studios can present X, and then if this other studio presents X, it could be the identical thing. They get demolished for it. But it's not always just studios. It's also publishers. It's also all of that. And the problem is, I think a lot of these companies look to like Epic and they say, well, Fortnite can do this. Ubisoft can do this. Like, why is it that this studio can do this, but we can't? Like, how does that make sense? I don't know, but they think they should be allowed to get away with it because their game looks identical, right? I think it's interesting to see how these studios try to trend chase in certain ways where they will look at Fortnite and be like, oh, well, Fortnite has this art style and people love Fortnite. Look how many players they have, how many billions they make, right? And so they go and they throw money at it and try to do that themselves. But then their fan base comes at it and it's like, what is this? Like, I didn't want the Fortnite style. I didn't want characters that look like they were made out of cardboard boxes. I don't want this. I like Horizon for being beautiful and high fidelity. And now you had to lower it, no doubt, because it's a multiplayer game, because you can't have the same level of fidelity while having 5 players, 6 players at a time. It's like, I get why, but also like, I didn't ask for this. And that's the bigger problem, I think, for the Horizon multiplayer game is no doubt when the game comes out, it will have probably a ton of content. It will have a bunch of weapons. It'll have a bunch of skins, no doubt some to buy with real money. And it better be free to play. If they're charging $70 for it, I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised. But ultimately, like, the problem they're going to run into is that Monster Hunter fans just got Monster Hunter. And depending on when this launches, they could also be getting an expansion, because there's some speculation that this might get pushed to next year. And if that happens, they're probably launching next to a big expansion for Monster Hunter. So Monster Hunter fans will probably, some of them might try it, but they'll probably play Monster Hunter. So then you're relying on like Horizon fans to play this. But if Horizon fans love Aloy, if they love the narrative stuff, if they love the beautiful, stunning graphics, are they really going to jump into an online like multiplayer game that doesn't have any of that? Might be graphically impressive in its own way with this different art style, but like, are they going to jump into it? I don't know. And I think this is the problem for a lot of these companies, is that they think that there's just like an endless number of players out there, or they think players are really unidimensional. So they're like, oh, well, Fortnite players like Fortnite art styles, so we make a Horizon game with a Fortnite coat of paint, we'll get Fortnite players. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. Okay. Players are much more nuanced than that. There's a lot more that goes into it. There's Horizon players that may not want to play this because of the art style, or because it's multiplayer, or because it's this or that. It's not as simple as just, well, we'll get all the Horizon players to play this because they like Horizon, and then this is Horizon. So we'll get all of those. So that's like 500,000 players concurrent right there. And then we also will get a bunch of Fortnite players. So that's another 200,000 maybe on top of that. And you can start to see how these like executives think that they can just hodgepodge this Frankenstein's monster player base together, when the other like elephant in the room with all this is that the most potent and powerful force in the games industry that can be used for good and for evil is peer pressure. If peer pressure is encouraging players to jump into something because it's so good, awesome. Games have been sold based on that. Entire, huge releases, whether it's Pal World or even another Sony live service game like Helldivers 2. Those games primarily blew up because of word of mouth. The peer pressure from all your friends you gotta buy it, you gotta try it. It's so good. You gotta jump in with me. That peer pressure helped those games and helped them find amazing success. But it goes the other way too. And if a game is deemed uncool, if a game is deemed cringe or out of touch, it's real hard to overcome that. Concord being the primary example. Like, mechanically, Concord was decent. Like, yeah, you played it, movement was fairly tight, and the characters did have all their own unique abilities and stuff. Yeah, there were some synergies you could do together. When you found a match, it was pretty solid. It was missing a lot of stuff, but like it was put together like decently well, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever played. And there's been live service games that are not amazing that kind of end up eventually building up to something great. But with Concord, it was deemed cringe and uncool, and then it tanked. Same with Forspoken, cringe and uncool. Before it even launched, there were clips going viral of just the player character, whatever her name was, Faye, I think, talking. She was just doing a scene of dialogue, uncut, unedited. It went viral for how cringy it was. And that immediately tanked it. Saints Row reboot. You just send out a clip, a minute-long clip of that cast talking about eating the rich and down with capitalism and the patriarchy and, oh, my student loans are coming due. And immediately people check out and are good. Don't buy it. And that's like seeing some of these leaks from 5 years ago. Again, to be fair, it's really hard to get that out of your head when you see that that's where they were starting, when that's the vibe that they were beginning with, because nobody wants that. Definitely not Horizon fans, and definitely not like the Monster Hunter crew. And then there's other things that we're hearing, like, for example, Sony saying that they still believe in premium live service games, which translation to normal person language, premium live service means at least $40 to then play the game that also has microtransactions and stuff in it. That's what Sony means by that. And they say even after Concord, they still, what they said in their like investor call was, quote, they still believe in premium live service, which to me signals like fair game $sign probably comes with a $40 $sign next to it. This probably more like a $70 price tag next to it, because they believe that it's a premium game. And I'm sure it will be beautiful. I'm sure it'll be polished. I'm sure it'll run great. Like Guerrilla doesn't tend to screw up when it comes to that stuff. But when it comes to live service, it's not as simple as just, is the game solid and like pretty well put together? It's not as simple as that, because they can't make this profitable off of a launch that does pretty good. They have to have players play it and keep playing it and keep playing it and keep spending money in it and continue to do that for months and then years. And that is a way bigger ask. And they could find success. I mean, eventually, you know, if they stick with it for a long time, they could find success, and I think it's not impossible. We've even seen other instances with like Fallout 76, you know?
I watch your content on YouTube. Finally able to watch a live stream.
Booyah.
Here's a little something for the interesting talks videos.
Thank you.
ML7 Olaf Wave.
Thank you, Revens GC. Thank you for that sub over on Twitch. Yeah, I think that like Fallout 76 is a great example of a game that starts, of course, horribly. Like probably one of the worst launches of any live service thing ever. Way worse. I don't know what the peak player counts were like, but Fallout 76 was a total unmitigated disaster. And that game is still rocking. Like there are still people that pour hundreds of hours into that game that are paying $100 a year memberships. No Man's Sky, exactly, Folly. That's another great example. Started horribly rough and now has ballooned into this amazing package that's overwhelmingly massive. It sounded sexual. I didn't mean it to, but I also probably did. So I think with a lot of these games, even if they start rough, you can eventually get to the point where they have amazing communities and are really solid, but you have to stick with them for a long time. And that takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of resources, a lot of money. And here's the other like thing that I think could be the nail in the coffin for the Horizon project, depending on how they run it. Guerrilla is not a team of like 3,000 people. Okay. It's not Activision. They're not that big. And Horizon has a dedicated fan base, no doubt, of people that want the single player games. They're in this weird spot where if this online project is successful, Guerrilla basically becomes the live service team that is needed to run this. And that means Horizon 3 is on ice for a good long while at least. So you probably will even get to a point where you see like pretty diehard Horizon fans that are wishing that this game doesn't do too well so they can get back to Horizon 3, which wouldn't necessarily blame them. I mean, could you blame them in that case? Like, it makes sense. They want X, they're being given Y, and they're like, if Y is successful, we don't get X. I don't like that, you know? So all of this to say, we should be seeing in the next handful of months, probably, something about the Horizon game. I would guess at the summer, maybe in like June, we see the PlayStation showcase that reveals the game, and maybe they're shooting for a release this fall. What would be really, really freaking funny is if, you know, the meme is that Horizon always launches next to a bigger game because they think that it's bigger than it is, and it always harms Horizon's like final player counts and stuff. With the first game, they launched like right next to Breath of the Wild. The second game, they launched right next to Elden Ring. It would be so freaking funny if they ended up releasing accidentally right next to GTA 6. It would be so funny, dude. But it's not outside the realm of possibility because they constantly do this. Like they think that they can hit way above their weight class, and it's not impossible that they end up going right there. They're like, Herman, what the hell are you doing? Why are we launching next to GTA 6? Why are you doing this to us? He's like, no, Horizon's massive. It's bigger than Star Wars. And they're like, it's not though. Like, it's really not. It's going to be great. It's going to work out. Don't worry about it. It would be really funny. It would be really funny, but we will see. We will see. Because again, they're expected to probably launch this at some point this year, which means they got to show it relatively soon. They also have Marathon in the mix with all of this. There's rumors and leaks and speculation that they're going to start showing Marathon in the next like handful of months, which would clear the runway to probably start showing off Horizon around the summer and maybe release in the fall next to a GTA 6. So time will tell. Time will tell. But they got to get it out at some point and figure out what they're doing. And I just can't wait, because I think the Horizon game, honestly, this is probably one of those instances where the Horizon game is going to hinge on that first trailer more than probably any other game this year. Because if that first trailer is anything like the leaks and that stuff has remained, I think there's a strong chance that this game gets memed into oblivion. But if they've like looked at the feedback to the leaks, and there was some speculation the leaks might have even been controlled, where they dropped that stuff to see if players would react positively to the art style direction and all of that. And then when the reaction was really negative, maybe they pivoted away from it. That's possible. It's possible what we end up seeing is nothing like those leaks. There's been stories even in Hollywood, you know, where they will leak who they're considering casting for a role. And it's not a leak. Like, they put it out there themselves because they wanted to see what like social media would say about, oh, X actor being cast as this. So this type of thing happens. It's not impossible that the leaks were controlled dissemination of information and they wanted to see what the public would think of it. But who knows? Who knows? I think that first trailer is going to be crucial. And if they don't nail it, and if it's cringe as hell, it's going to be a long year on the Free Roam podcast for Jor. I mean, because I'll be joking about it all the time. And it will be funny. We will have so much fun. But I hope it looks great. I hope that they nail it. I hope that they introduce some clever new ideas that we haven't seen before. I hope it's awesome. If I were a betting man, I would guess, just based on the quality of decisions we've seen from PlayStation in the last few years, if I were a betting man, I would guess that it probably is filled with some decisions I will find surprising, but we'll see. Honestly, if Horizon Monster Hunter doesn't do well along with Horizon MMO, we could see the series shelved for a bit. I mean, the thing is, like, if this launches this year, let's say this launches in like September or November or something, and it's just not doing great, it's not making much money, and then they try to launch the MMO. I think the MMO honestly stands a better chance of success because it's not coming from Guerrilla. I think Guerrilla has outsized pressures on them because there is an understanding where people know that if it doesn't do well, they are in serious trouble of getting, like, you know, the next game. But it's just going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. If the game comes out on Steam still requiring PSN like Helldivers 2, I'm out. I mean, it literally will. They said that for the single player stuff, they're walking that back. But for the online stuff, their goal is to have crossplay and stuff at least available. And so they're going to need the PlayStation Network stuff because they also want to make it so when they ban you, if you're banned for like cheating or something, they can keep you banned. He took my thing.